Welcome to the Boneyard with Steve Robertson. As always, I am your good friend and host, Steve Robertson, here on the midweek edition of the Yard, the hump day edition of the Yard. Trying to get the show up a little bit earlier. I got to go to the spa today. Got to go help Dana out a little bit. Been very, very busy, and you could make it even busier. I know many of you have procrastinated, and you haven't thought about what to get your significant other for Valentine's Day. Well, I'm here to help you. Yeah, I'm here to help you with that. You can get 2 floats for $99. Just call Dana at the spa, 662-268-7601. Many people already have. And you can get a very unique gift that allows a little peace and quiet. You know, if you've got a young mom, right? If you're married to a young lady that rarely gets any time to herself, then this would be a great gift idea for them. You can use it as a date night special. You can float in one pod, she can float in another. Or you can let her have both. It's completely up to you. But it's a great gift idea. I want to get that out there first and make sure you understand. 662-268-7601. And once you make the purchase, it's already on file in the system. And Dana can send you an email if you need to get, you need to have that to present to them. But things are going great. Very, very busy. I'm still trying to get her to hire somebody. She's still reluctant to do so. We can certainly afford to do so. But she's one of these kinds of people. It's her baby. It's absolutely her baby. And she wants everybody to have the great experience. And so, you'll get a chance to meet her and you'll see how well I'm married too. So it's always a cool thing, too. I had so many people that message me weekly saying, Steve, I went and floated for the first time, met your wife. She's awesome. And I agree. She is awesome. Absolutely awesome. And she's already got all her Valentine's Day stuff because I'm the kind of guy like I just can't hold it. Right now, I can wait till Christmas sometimes, and there's some times I can pull off the big reveal. But I just kind of give it to her as it comes in. As I think about it, and I'm going to go ahead and tell you what I got her. Right? Well, not everything. I'm going to tell you a couple things I got her. So back this fall, I had discovered that her favorite sandals that I had bought her a couple of years ago. And she loved those sandals because they go with everything. Right? They're kind of, jeweled sandals. They're great. And she said, these are the most comfortable and cutest sandals I've ever had. Well, she broke them. And she was bummed. And thanks to Al Gore's internet, I was able to just kind of go back and reorder them, right? And so she had no clue those were coming. And then I got her an M over S black hoodie. I know some of you guys don't like the black. That's fine. Legends wear black. But anyway, got her that and a couple other things. But anyway, I thought you guys would enjoy that. But she's already got her stuff, and I wanted to give her hoodie yesterday because of the fact that I thought, hey, opening day's coming up. Maybe she wants to wear something fresh. And I give her a lot of credit, as you guys know, that she loves college baseball. And so she wears a Mississippi State jersey on every game day. Every game day. But it's still a little bit chilly, and I thought, you know what? Let's get her that hoodie. And so I did. So that's what I did. We'll probably go hang Sunday night, and that'll be our Valentine's Day celebration. But you can make your Valentine's Day celebration a little bit cooler with a very unique gift. The Valentine's Day package. Just call her, again, 662-268-7601, and say, hey, I heard about it on the show, and I think this will be a great gift. And she can get you going. It only takes a minute or two. So let's thank our friends at Bulldog Burger Company, longtime sponsors of this show. We love Bulldog Burger Company, and we have for a long time. I don't need to buy them a Valentine's Day gift for them to understand how much I love them because I frequent that establishment so often. And a lot of times I just kind of get it to go because they have almost mastered the to-go order. You know how many times you go some places and you get something to go and they just kind of give it to you in kind of a nondescript styrofoam container and you get it back to the office or you get it home and it's just a mess? Man, that's just not the case with Bulldog Burger Company. It's so great how well they organized this. They kind of perfected it during the COVID shutdown. And it was absolutely remarkable when you go back in hindsight and you think about, hey, you know what, it was a tough time for our country, obviously, but we learned a few lessons along the way. I got to give Bulldog Burger Company credit for just being so incredibly on top of the to-go order, right? I do like to go in there and put my feet under their table because, sometimes I just want to focus on the person I'm with and let somebody else do the heavy lifting. They're more than happy to do that for you at Bulldog Burger Company. 3 great locations to serve you: University Drive in Stark Vegas, Gloucester Street there in Tupelo, Lake Harbor Drive in the Ridge and Flowood area. Have the spring rolls as your appetizer. They'll make you and everybody around you better looking. Everybody needs more of that. And again, kind of thinking back, that COVID stuff, I couldn't wait to go have a normal meal in a restaurant again. That's the little things you miss, right? We kind of take for granted all the time. And that was one of the things that I learned. I said, I cannot wait to just be able to go back to a restaurant and get waited on and just kind of have a night out of relaxation and great dining, right? And Bulldog Burger Company comes through every time for me, and they will for you too, right? Bulldog Burger Company, the place for people to go to meet, M-E-A-T. Okay, we get together on Friday. We're going to be previewing the weekend, the SEC baseball weekend, and I thought today, a good use of our time, I think, is to kind of look back a little bit. Let's look back to see how we look forward. And what I mean by that is, every one of you feels like I do, that hosting, especially this year, should be a given. We have not hosted since 2021, the year we won the national championship. So let's kind of go back and let's look at last year's tournament, last year's NCAA tournament, and let's just kind of see what the roadmap was. Well, obviously, you want to be a top 8 national seed. At the very least, you want to host an NCAA regional. So of the 16 teams that hosted last year, 9 of those 16 advanced to a super regional. Now you would say, wow, that seems like a low number. Well, this shows you the competitive balance that we have in college baseball now. What's interesting about that too is when you break it down to top 8 national seeds, obviously it gives you the right to host a regional and a super if you advance. You begin to kind of run this thing down here. There were some surprises, but 5 of 8 top 8 national seeds ended up making it to Omaha. 5 of 8. And so, yes, you host, you have a good chance to advance. If you are a top 8, you have an even better chance to advance, and that stands to reason because you get to host both rounds at home. And so when you begin to kind of work through that aspect of it, you begin to kind of ask yourself, okay, what are the chances of a team that doesn't host getting to Omaha? Well, last year there were 3 teams that didn't host the regional round that made it to Omaha. That was Arizona, Louisville, and Murray State. And of course, Murray State, one of the best stories in college baseball, not just because of the fact they won the Ole Miss regional, because Ole Miss has dropped a lot of regionals over the years at home they should have won. But the fact that the Racers made it to Omaha shows you really kind of the joy of college baseball, that a team like that, a team that doesn't have a lot of resources, can put together a good roster. And a lot of people thought, hey, that coach is probably going to have an opportunity to go somewhere. Well, elected to stay. So again, how do you achieve that? How do you get to be a regional host? Well, you got to play good baseball, obviously. You got to win your midweek games. I know some people out there say, midweeks don't matter. It may not matter in the rankings, but it matters before the D1 baseball selection committee. Because if it didn't, Mississippi State would have hosted in 2024. And I had people in the industry telling me there is no way State hosts with 4 Q4 losses. No way. And you know what? They proved to be right. And how many times, remember that year? It's like, they need to win a game in Hoover. Well, we beat Ole Miss. Okay, well, one more win, and they're certainly going to host. Then you beat Texas A&M. Well, it's still not enough, right? And the truth of the matter is those projections proved to be correct because those 4 Q4 losses just kind of hung like an anchor, right? And you go back and look at them. You lose to Central Arkansas like 11 in the morning, lose those 2 games to Austin Peay. I know it was a great Governor's team. We should never lose to Austin Peay, much less twice, and come from behind fashion. So when you go back and you look at the top eights from last year, the SEC obviously well represented, as we should have been. We are the most dominant baseball conference the world has ever seen. So 6 of the top 8 national seeds were from the Southeastern Conference. The 2 that weren't were North Carolina and Oregon State. And Oregon State is very much a baseball school. And it's a wild situation out there. They made it work for themselves, and they made it to Omaha. They did. So before we get into SEC play, we got to take care of non-conference stuff. And obviously we'll have some RPI climbing opportunities out in Arlington. You know what you're going to get this year from Arizona State. A lot of people think they're kind of a sexy Omaha team too. UCLA is a team that many people think could win the whole thing this year. You go out there and you win a couple of games in Arlington, that's going to benefit you down the stretch. But at the end of the day, it is all about yourself, right? You cannot be in a situation where you're having to depend on other people. So let's kind of go back and look and run down our top 8s from the SEC last year. Number 1 seed was Vandy, which was a joke. That is a joke. Joke. They finished tied for 3rd in the SEC and ended up being the number 1 team in a tournament. Come on, give me a break. That just tells me that we're spending too much time being reliant on the RPI and not thinking this thing through. That's my honest opinion. Vanderbilt was a good team last year, but once again, they didn't win a regional in the NIL era of college baseball. They were number 1 national seed, and it was a joke. Number 2, a team that I think should have been the number 1 national seed, and it didn't work out well for them either, but it's Texas. So last year, Texas, in their first year in the Southeastern Conference, they go 22-8. That's a very loud result, right? Because usually the SEC champion wins 20 to 21 games. 22 for Texas. And they ended up 44-14 overall. And again, they lost less games than Vanderbilt and won more games than Vanderbilt. And then they ended up being behind Vanderbilt in the tournament seeding. It's a joke, man. Should never have happened. Now, number 3 was Arkansas. Arkansas went 20-10. And maybe you've heard Mississippi State's own Charles Cross of the Seattle Seahawks playing in the Super Bowl. How about that? Another Bulldog possibly getting the ring here. Super Bowl is here, and that's where MyBookie helps you turn bets into bankroll. Everybody's watching the game. Everybody's got a take. Everybody's got a 7-layer dip recipe. And this is the one game where props matter just as much as the final score. That's why so many people use MyBookie. Their Super Bowl prop board is deep and fun to play. It's the same reason they get talked about on Jimmy Kimmel Live every year when this game rolls around. If there was ever time to get in, it's now. One account, one wallet, bet the spread, live bet the second half, hit the casino during commercials. It all lives in one place. Go to mybookie.ag now and use promo code BONEYARD and get your first bet covered up to $500. That's right. If it doesn't hit, use your bet back bonus token and run it back. Don't just watch the big game, make it pay with MyBookie. I think there's some people that even slept on Arkansas a little bit last year. Back in 24, we knew they were vulnerable. But last year, some of their pitchers grew up a little bit. Some of those guys are back. And as long as Dave Van Horn is there, Arkansas is a threat. He's just a great baseball coach. He won 50 games last year. And, of course, the Arkansas Razorback curse lives. Auburn was your number 4 national seed. Now, Auburn, back a little more in the pack here. And I don't know that I would have had them the number 4 national seed. But to give them a lot of credit, their strength of schedule was ridiculous. They scheduled Georgia Tech in the midweek. They did some things that were kind of creative with the schedule to give them some RPI climbing opportunities. They took full advantage of it. And Auburn obviously advanced. LSU. And there was some thinking that LSU might be a little bit deeper than they should have been in the eyes of many. They ended up being the number 6 national seed. And there was a lot of discussion kind of going into this. Where do they land? There were some people that projected them as the number 8 seed. which could have been interesting because if you can be 8, you could be 9. Now, it worked out well for LSU, obviously. Won the national championship. They went 19-11 in conference play. Then there's Georgia, number 7 overall national seed, went 18-12 in SEC play, and then 43-17 overall. So, of the top 8 national seeds from the Southeastern Conference, Auburn had the worst in-conference record, 17-13. Still ended up at number 4. And again, I think it shows the committee values non-conference scheduling. The non-conference RPF for Auburn was really good last year. So, if we're going to be in contention to be a top 8 national seed, and I don't know that we're going to get the benefit of an RPI climbing opportunity with a lot of non-conference stuff outside of Arlington. And I think Auburn 17-13 is a little bit of an outlier because of the metrics last year that really helped them. But I think in order for us to be a top 8, we have got to win at least 18 games in the conference, at least 18. And the numbers from last year, and the committee is pretty much made up a lot of the same people as last year. There's always 1 or 2 changes. But by and large, they have shown that they prioritize the metrics. So Mississippi State, last year, of course, we did some great things later, but we went 15-15, right? We weren't in contention to host that year. You go back to 2024, and you look at the how it all breaks down. There were only 2 teams in the SEC that won 18 or more games in conference. That was Tennessee and Kentucky. Of course, they tied for the SEC crown. Mississippi State, obviously, 3 teams. Arkansas. We still were in divisions back then. My mistake. But State went 17-13 and didn't host. Last year, Auburn goes 17-13, and they ended up being the number 4 national seed. So not every 17-13 is correct. Arkansas went 20-10. A&M went 19-11. So you had 4 teams that won 18 games or more, and all of them proved to be top 8 national seed. So that appears to be a pretty good cutoff point within our league. Is it if you win 18, and if Mississippi State had won 18-24, there's no question, right? You win that game against Georgia. I mean, how many games do you want to go back and recount that we blew late leads? Like going to Fayetteville. We should have swept the series. If they at least won the series, we dropped 2 games that we shouldn't, and we end up on the road at Charlottesville. So 18 just kind of stands to reason. That should be basically the foundation if Mississippi State wants to be a top 8. And we do. We do. We desperately do. Because the math simply shows when you get to host the first 2 rounds, you get an opportunity to go to Omaha. Once you get to Omaha, obviously, a chance to play for a national championship. So when I run this thing back and I begin to think about, this schedule, and a lot of people, would say, hey, our Mississippi State schedule is a bear. It always is, with rare exception. And last year was one of those years where we had a great schedule. We didn't take full advantage of it. And I don't know that we played maybe to our full potential the first month of conference play, as you guys know. And again, we blew so many games late last year. And a lot of it's because we couldn't get the big hit. Couldn't get the big hit late to expand the lead. We go down to LSU, that rain-soaked series, blow a couple leads down there, have Texas on the rope at one time, go to Oklahoma, drop 2 games out there we had no business dropping. It's just kind of how life works. And so the juxtaposition here is you look back the last couple of years and we've thought, hey, what's the minimum number of games we have to make the tournament? And there has been a different shift in thinking this year because of the quality of the roster that we put together, the quality of the players we have returning, and the quality of the signing class that we brought in. You begin to think, okay, Mississippi State is capable of great things, which is why everybody has us ranked in their top 6. So based on what we know in the preseason, it appears Mississippi State should be projected to be a top 8. It's up to us, right? It's not like they're just going to vote based on logos. Sometimes I guess that matters. But the reality of it is that we've got a 55 game schedule ahead of us, and it's going to be up to us to go win those games. And as Brian O'Connor said last week, every game matters. You go back and you look at Virginia last year, and I'm the one that asked the question, what lessons did you learn last year? A team with great expectations. A lot of people thought Virginia was a shoo-in to go to Omaha in the preseason, and it didn't work out for them. And he mentioned, too many midweek losses. And they went through a stretch where it kind of became a little bit of a joke, right? Where they just simply couldn't win games. And so when you go back and you look at hindsight and you begin to think about, okay, how important are those midweek games? Well, it's pretty safe to say for Mississippi State in 24 and in Virginia in 25, they were incredibly important. And of course, Virginia didn't make the tournament last year. They finished just 32-18, but 16-11 in conference. So 5 games above 500 in the second best baseball conference in America. But I mean, right out of the gate, they're out in Puerto Rico, and they went 2 of 3 down there. But the 2 wins were against Villanova and Rice. They dropped one against Michigan in the season opener. But again, they probably still felt good about the weekend. Then you go out to Round Rock and you lose 2 out of 3 out there. You lose to Oregon State, Omaha team. You beat Minnesota, and then you lose to Oklahoma. And this is when Virginia was ranked number 2 in the country. So again, you go out to what should be a good tournament, and you drop 2 or 3. And really, it's the truth of the matter is, you hadn't played anybody of significance that you defeated. Every team that you played kind of with a pulse, you end up dropping those games. Well, then Virginia goes on a pretty good winning streak here in non-conference play. And then you get into ACC play, the very opening weekend of ACC play, what happens? You lose 2 out of 3 to Boston College at home in Charlottesville. Not great. You pick off Maryland in a Tuesday game, and then next thing you know, you go out to Berkeley and you win 2 out of 3 out there. Good road series win. Then you got Duke that comes into Charlottesville. At this point, Virginia had stumbled to 23 in the country. Duke sweeps the series. So you've had 2 home series within the league, and you dropped them both. Well, Stanford comes in, feeling great about life. Well, you sweep them. That makes you feel good about things. Then you got to go to Raleigh, North Carolina, and you play NC State. One of the better teams in the ACC, as we know. And you lose 2 out of 3. And it's like all of a sudden, it's not time to hit the panic button, but if you're thinking about hosting, that's over, okay? You're now 7-8 in the league. And you got to figure some things out down the stretch. And it's like maybe some midseason malaise just kind of like fell over this. It's like, hey, we had all these expectations. And that's one of the things about coaching is teaching young players how to manage great expectations. And last year, I don't know that UVA did that. Now, down the stretch, O'Connor got them going. But again, they really weren't in a situation where they felt that they kind of turned some things around just yet. They get 2 out of 3 from Pitt, and then the one they lose is an 8-7 game. Then they drop a midweek game to Liberty. Then the series with Florida State is canceled. And I don't know if that was a good thing or a bad thing. Florida State was number 7 at the time and ultimately proved to be the number 9 seed in the tournament. So, does UVA go down there and lose a couple of games? Possibly, right? Then after that, they put together a pretty good winning streak here. And kind of a loud series win at Georgia Tech to get 2 out of 3. They lose the finale, the sweep game, in 10 innings, 7-6. And then next thing you know, they start stringing some things together. They get Virginia Tech in the tournament. They lose. They win the first one. They get Virginia Tech at Virginia Tech, who will play here in Arlington. But you get 2 out of 3 there, and you get into the ACC tournament, you get bounced 12-8. But I think the lesson learned, if you're Brian O'Connor, as he says, you're always learning, is every game matters. And you can't just say, well, we'll get right on the weekend. We've experienced that as well. And so if we're going to be the team that we aspire to be, you got to get 18. You got to get 18, and you can't have any clunkers in the midweek. It's one thing to lose to Southern Miss, right? Southern Miss ended up being a host team last year. And, we're going to play a home and home with them, and we split with them last year. I'd like to be able to sweep them this year, not because of any rivalry or any bitterness, but it's because of the fact that I think that can be an RPI climbing opportunity for us. I don't know how good Coastal's going to be this year. Sun Belt's going to be a fun conference to watch. But I feel like Southern Miss is probably second or third best team in that conference at a minimum, right? Southern Miss could win that conference. The door to it goes to Coastal Carolina. But those are the things that when you go back and look at our midweek schedule, which is not great, it's all the more reason you got to win those games. And you got Troy coming in. That's a solid mid-major team. They missed the tournament last year and probably had a beef because they were a preseason top 25 team and then didn't make the tournament. But Skylar Meade's a great coach there. And his name was connected with a lot of other jobs around the Southeast. And I think if they put together a good year this year, good chance he makes the jump. Is he a guy that's in line for South Carolina? Right? Right? It would make some sense, right? But as we get ready to embark on this journey together, Mississippi State's got to win the games they're expected to win. And probably win some games that maybe you're not expected to win. Like there's some road series out there that are extremely important. And you win one or two of those, all of a sudden you start thinking big dreams, right? You start thinking you feel really good about where you sit with the top 8 because winning on the road does more for your RPI than anything else. And we're going to have some opportunities to do that. And real quickly before we change topics here, when you go back and you think about what the number one, the SEC schedule looks like, what are the road weekends? Well, you got to go to Arkansas. And that's been a house of horrors at times for us. 2 years ago, we let them off the hook. But that's a team, obviously, that's ranked very high, a team that went to Omaha last year. You go up there, and if you find a way to win that series, which is tough, it's very difficult to do, you feel really good the first weekend out of the gate. At the bare minimum, you got to go get that one. Then, you're home for a while. Then you go to Ole Miss. Now, Ole Miss picked more in the back half of the league. We've had some success up there. We got to make that happen. Got to extend our streak against them. Of course, a couple years ago, we went up there and got our nose bloodied. We blew a late lead and got shelled in Game 3. We got to go to South Carolina, a team that's picked near the bottom of the league. That's not going to help us, but we need to go out there and get a sweep. We had a chance to do that in 21. You win those first 2 games, and we expand the lead early, and then they just said, we're going to just stack our relievers for Sunday, and they stole a game from us. Then you got to go to Texas. Major RPI climbing opportunity there. And then we close it out, obviously going to A&M. So we have a chance to do what we need to do on the road. You start talking about those 18 wins, right? You start thinking about, hey, you go to South Carolina, that should be a series win. But, Arkansas, Texas, you feel like, hey, I got to at least get one. The main thing you got to do is avoid getting swept. But if you find a way to win one of those, all of a sudden, life gets a lot easier. And I suspect if you're a Mississippi State fan, you're going to be watching Warren Nolan's site basically every Monday, right after all the results are tabulated. And you're going to be thinking about that RPI. Because of the fact we're not in a situation now where we're just trying to make the tournament. You're going to follow it a lot closer. We're going to follow it a lot closer. We're going to report on it a lot closer because this team is capable of being a top 8 national seed. At the bare minimum, we feel like we're a regional host. And I think, again, we talk so much about the top 8. The other 8 hosts last year, of course, Florida State, Ole Miss, Clemson, Oregon, Coastal, Tennessee, UCLA, and Southern Miss. when you work the backside of this thing, it's kind of a 50-50 proposition, right? You had 8 teams outside of the top 8. Well, 4 advanced and 4 didn't. Of those 8 teams that hosted from 9 to 16, only one of them went to Omaha. That was UCLA. So again, you go back and you do the math on this, you begin to realize how important that is. And that's not a hot take. We all know how important it is to play at home. And that this fan base on super regional weekends is as intense as anybody in the history of college baseball. You saw the number 1 defensive team in the country, Notre Dame, come in here and just absolutely fall apart. You guys played a part in that because every pitch matters, right? We enjoy all the ball games, but man, when we play postseason baseball at Duty Noble Field, it's like everybody is hanging on every pitch. You don't just celebrate the runs. If it's a strike, you cheer. If it's a ball, you boo. That's a difficult environment for a visitor. Number one, hey, you come in here thinking, man, we're just one weekend away from Omaha. And then you got to deal with 15,000 Bulldogs. It's a tough deal. That's how important it is for us to get there. So that's the roadmap for us. You've got to get to 18. And in order to get to 18, you're going to have to pick up some wins on the road. And we're going to need some road series. Like if we really want to contend, we need to win some of these road SEC series. And if you get a couple of them, let's say you get A&M, you get Ole Miss, you get South Carolina, that's 6 right there. That's 6 of your 18 on the road. What helps you in SOS and RPI. And if you can find a way to win your home series, you start doing the math there, you feel really good about life. And so that's kind of where we are. You got to avoid getting swept. You got to pick up a couple of road wins somewhere, road series wins, and you got to protect the home turf. But that's how it's played out the last couple of years. And we've got to be on our P's and Q's to ensure that we don't drop games we're not supposed to. All right, time for our close with Blair Player of the Day, CLOSE with Blair, BLAIR, Blair Chandler. Recently got married again. I don't know your feelings about that. I like her. Blair likes her. He likes her more than I do, as he should. But Blair, 25 years of experience in the mortgage loan origination business. Save this number in your phone, 601-500-2344. 601-500-2344. Lock it in your phone as Mortgage Guy. You may forget the name, you won't forget the need. And when you need him, Blair's going to be at the ready. He knows how to construct loans to give you the best chance to get approval through underwriting to help make your dream of home ownership come true. Whether you're looking to refinance, maybe you're looking to consolidate some debt, or to buy a home, or perhaps pursue that game day condo, which could be more affordable than you think, Blair's the only name to know. Licensed to practice in multiple states. He is a Bulldog through and through. So whether you're looking for your first home, your next home, or your retirement home, the only name to know is Blair Chandler. You don't want to entrust something as important as your mortgage into the hands of somebody that, maybe doesn't have his expertise. Close with Blair. Today we're going to do it a little bit different. They've recently announced the new Ron Polk Ring of Honor inductees this year. Our legacy pick is Alex Grammas. Alex played years ago and ultimately became the major league manager of the Milwaukee Brewers. True, in the 70s. And Jimmy Bragan was our head coach for 1 year, former player, played with Alex and the Grammas brothers. And then Bragan left us to go join Alex Grammas' staff in the big leagues. That's ultimately led to us hiring Ron Polk. Buck Showalter. It was just a matter of time before he got in. There are rules, but the rules are the rules. And he had to be retired for a little while from the game, so we called him Nat back then. Of course, you may know him from Seinfeld. He was a cameo appearance multiple times on that great show. Buck, of course, did some great things as a major league manager. And, of course, one of the greatest hitters to ever wear the maroon and white. and then Chris Stratton, Tupelo, Mississippi's own Chris Stratton, the first big recruit of the John Cohen era. And Chris, of course, did some incredible things. I remember that Sunday down at LSU when Chris just dominated them, and then the next year came back and pitched on Friday night and ultimately lost a pitching battle. And his performance was so well regarded at Alex Box Stadium that they gave Chris a standing ovation. The LSU folks did. Chris was a dude. No ifs, ands, or buts about it. He was absolutely an incredible player here at Mississippi State. So 3 players today honored as your Close with Blair Players of the Day, and they will be inducted into the Ron Polk Ring of Honor. I think it's a great thing, and I love the fact that we are still inducting legacy players in. There's still a few guys out there that I'd like to see make it, and we'll continue to advocate with them, with the powers that be. But the reality of it is, this is a wonderful thing that we do. It's a way to celebrate our past as we also look forward to our baseball future. Again, brought to you by closewithblair.com. Okay, time for today's Top 10 list. Brought to you by Calido Guitars, C-A-L-I-D-O, guitars.com. That's a Mississippi State-owned and operated guitar shop. They specialize in guitars, but they're mainly a stringed instrument operation. So when you need a banjo, a ukulele, anything like that, you can find it. Visit their website today, CalidoGuitars.com, or stop by and see their expansive showroom out there in Lake Jackson, Texas, just south of Houston. And you can go home with a quality instrument at a discounted price just because you listen to this show. The promo code they have provided for us is applicable in person, over the phone, or online. It's promo code BSR. We wanted to keep it simple for you. You know that promo code well, right? I don't want you guys having to juggle these. We're going to be as consistent as we can be. BSR. That gets you a 10% discount off their already low price. That gets you no sales tax unless you live in the great state of Texas. That gets you no shipping. They also are going to make a 5% donation based off your purchase price to the Bulldog Excellence Fund. It's a win-win-win. They win, you win, Mississippi State wins, and when the Bulldogs win, we all win, right? So whether you need a brand new guitar, whether it be an acoustic, a classical, an electric, they can help you with that. If you're a beginner, they can get you in without a huge financial commitment, and you can begin kind of figuring your way through this thing. I've got a Steve Vai signature original guitar from them that I treasure. If you need accessories like strings, gig bags, straps, cases, anything you need to be a better guitar player, you can find. They provide everything other than the practice time. You have to make that for yourself. But if you're looking for a quality instrument, that's the way to go. CalidoGuitars.com. Okay, we have had a number of follow-up requests about Three Doors Down. Got a lot of messages. Said, Steve, I heard your Top 10, I was very touched by that, and I am feeling the loss the same way you are. Can we continue this kind of like we did with Ozzy? And I think we owe it to Brad, and I have enjoyed reading all the testimonials and all the great stories. There are so many people out there in the public eye that as you begin to put their life under a microscope, it kind of falls apart. Well, what we've seen about Brad Arnold is that it's actually enhanced his legacy as people have come out and just talked about all the great things that he's been a part of. And if I can find it here, and maybe I can't, but nevertheless, been a lot of bandmates that have come out, of course, peers in rock music, and talked about that he was a person that never shied away from his faith, and that he was a person that you would easily excuse behavior of others as well, they're just being a rock star, but that Brad never pursued those vicarious pursuits. That Brad was a person, obviously, that was very well grounded, and a person that was behind the scenes the person that he professed to be on stage, and then his public persona, and that the music industry never changed him. I think that's something that is to be celebrated. So Jesse was one of several people that reached out, but I believe he was among the first. And he goes, hey, Steve, I know the hits. Can you give us maybe some deeper cuts from Three Doors Down that maybe we're not quite as familiar with? Well, I had another request from somebody that said, hey, Steve, you blew it. You didn't include this one song. That it's one of the more recognizable songs of Three Doors Down. My attitude was I just didn't like it as much as my top 10. It probably was number 11. So we're going to include that today. So we'll start with number 10, The Broken. And basically, they played this at the presidential inauguration. And Three Doors Down played at the George Bush inauguration and Donald Trump's inauguration. I keep saying that wrong. Inauguration. But The Broken is the song they played the last time they did it. And my whole attitude about that is you get a chance to go play something of historic value, you go play it. Number 8, a great track too, The Road I'm On. I don't know if you know that one quite as well. You certainly should. And again, I think it really speaks to Brad's songwriting, and he wrote most of the tracks. Number 8, it's When You're Young. And this was kind of a modest radio hit, but it's a very, very good song. And I think it's a song that many of you young bucks should probably listen to, because there's a lot of things you begin to realize, and I firmly believe this. Despite what people tell you, you can't be whatever you want. You can't be. You got limitations. You can be whoever you want. That's something that's totally in your control. Because, if I'm 5'3", I'm not going to play in the NBA. If I can't hit the breaking ball, I'm not going to play Major League Baseball, right? And there are some professions out there that we need to have the highest aptitude and proficiency. Doctors and lawyers, I think, being at the top of the food chain in that respect. We never should lower the requirements to be either, ever. But sometimes they do, to disastrous results. But when you're young, you kind of figure some things out too. And a lot of people feel like the deck is stacked against them. And for some people, that's true. I recently reached out to a young man. I've never met this guy. I only know him peripherally. But he was not really born with a real chance at life. And he has still overcome that. And someone recently had mentioned his dad's name to me, who still has problems, that even in the last 5 years, I think he's been arrested 3 times. I have no idea where his mom is. And I noticed this young man did not follow either of his parents on social media. I've reached out to him, just trying to connect. He has about a year sober now, and his aspirations is to go to work in the recovery industry at a treatment center to help other people. And so I've reached out to him because I think he is a great story of a person that maybe was born under difficult circumstances to some parents that were young and that were living a very wild life. And while it led him to a dark path, he has found the light. And I think that young man is worthy of our encouragement. And so haven't heard back from him yet, but I will continue to try to reach out to him and see if we can't provide some measure of encouragement. Number 7, In the Dark. Fun song, kind of a party song. She likes to do it in the dark. It's it kind of says, speaks to what it is. Number 6, and this is a song that I don't think many people know as well as they should. It had some radio play for a while. It maybe didn't catch on the way that it should, but it's Behind Those Eyes, and it's a little bit up-tempo, got a great intro. That's one thing, that there's just a unique sound about Three Doors Down. The guitar tone, the tuning, there's a lot of things that are very consistent. They didn't try to reinvent themselves on every album. It's one of the things that I like, people that are true to themselves. And that song, Behind Those Eyes, is one of those. Number 5, this is the song I was told it should have been in our original top 10. I think it was when we did this a couple years ago, but we didn't do it maybe necessarily when Brad got ill. But it's Citizen Soldier. And a lot of people obviously equate Three Doors Down to their support of the military. They have gone all over the world and played for our troops. And this is one of those songs that they wrote based on those experiences, is that so many people out there work in the National Guard or whatever, and people that are just patriots and love America, volunteered their lives in their service to protect the rest of us. So it is a song of tribute. Number 4, Let Me Go. And what's interesting is Brad wrote so many very poignant ballads about Jen, his wife, and about how he loved her. This one so much not that vain. It's just let me go. And you never know what somebody else is going through, or the origin of a song. But it's basically a song, you say you love me, but you don't want to be myself, and there's a lot to that. But there's a song for every emotion in the Three Doors Down catalog. Number 3, I love this one. I love it, and it's off the time of my life. I think it's the name of the album, but came out about 10 years ago. But it's Us in the Night, and this is another up-tempo, good time song, and I think you'll have a good time with this one. Us in the Night is one of those that just kind of talks about, it's me and you together. We're gonna go out and have some fun. We're gonna go make this a night to remember. Number 2, one of the more poignant ballads that Brad wrote, and he wrote it about Jen. And we referenced it a little bit on Monday's show, but it's Your Arms Feel Like Home. And I hope that each of you have that or experience that. There are a lot of people out there in the world that never truly know what love is. I know what love is. I've experienced it. There were times I thought it would remain elusive for me. And obviously I was involved in some bad relationships before I met Dana. And as I told her this yesterday, I don't think I've ever truly loved anybody other than you, because you're like the only person that I really put in front of myself. And that's how I feel. There have been other relationships that I've had where it was always about me, right? And I'm just being honest with you guys. And I'll be honest with you, there's a part of me sometimes that it's difficult for me to receive love and to feel love. And that's just me being honest with you. And I don't know if there's some type of, psychological diagnosis for that kind of stuff. But I'm one of those kinds of people that maybe I don't feel like I deserve it at times. And maybe that's a self-esteem issue. I don't think that it is. I'm a fairly confident person. But the reality of it is I never really knew what it was like to have somebody really love me. There were some people who liked me a lot. People wanted to hang out with me. But every time that there was a little bit of adversity, they couldn't stand the rain. And now here we are. And so Dana's loved me through all my BS, right? And vice versa, right? And I shared with somebody recently, somebody asked me, about being as married as long as we've been. What's the secret to that? And I've heard the old adage too that, there are times over the course of a marriage you may fall out of love with each other, just don't do it at the same time. I think a better way to equate that really to verbiage that we can understand is that it's not always all in for both parties, right? There are some years that you may kind of carry a bigger part of the burden. It may be 70-30 some years. And then the next year, maybe things flipped, right? So everybody's got to be all in. But the main thing is you can never both be all out. Because when you get all out, that's when things, go askew. But the main thing is just, you love people where they are. And when things happen, you got to figure out what matters most. And that's the thing I think is the key to all of this is to understand that aspect of it. There will be times when it feels like you are putting forth most of the effort. And that's true. But there are other times when the other person is putting forth most of the effort. We're not always 100% lovable. You know what I'm saying? It's like we can say what we want to, and there's all these feelings of entitlement and things, but I want this and I want that, and I read it all the time on social media. Valentine's Day's coming up, and he hadn't planned anything, and I get it. You still want to be courted, but sometimes it's best just to open your mouth, right? Open your mouth and speak and use your words, as they say. Explain to people, hey, I'd love for us to be able to go out and celebrate us this weekend. Do you have anything planned, or would you like me to plan something? But there is this passive-aggressive part of us where we really just don't want them to do it so we can gripe about it because it gives us some currency of sort. But I think everybody is a lot happier when you just talk. It's one thing. So Dana and I went to marriage boot camp, what is it, 8 years ago now? And we went to celebrate our 25-year anniversary. We didn't have any major issues, but we went and we learned a lot about each other. And I also learned some things that I never knew about her and vice versa. So I encourage you to do a little maintenance. And I'm not going to sit here and tell you that everything has always been perfect. It hadn't been. But I know that I'm at home with her. I am the best version of myself with her, as 2022 proved to me when I got maybe a little bit cocky and think, oh, I'm fine, I can do all this, whatever. And then she starts travel nursing, and all of a sudden I kind of got a preview of what it would be like to be divorced, and I didn't like it. And I don't need freedom from her. I don't need a break from her. Like I read these people, well, we're on a break. Yeah. Go ahead and make it final. But number one, I have always loved this song. And I love the attitude in it. I love the blues aspect of it. I love the kind of the wild Marshall Tucker, modern Leonard Skinner vibe to this thing. It's Train. Put me on a train, mama. Just things just ain't the same, mama. I love that song. And so when you ask me my favorite deep cut from Three Doors Down, that's it. And Your Arms Feel Like Home was a little bit of a hit. Train, not so much. And I think Us in the Night and Train are probably songs that many of you don't know because you get busy with life. Like you start paying the mortgage and raising kids and all that kind of crazy stuff. And you quit buying new music. You just kind of stick to what you know or whatever's on Sirius XM and, that becomes your favorite. And you kind of forget some of these bands that meant so much to you. And just yesterday, 11 of the top 50 songs on iTunes from Three Doors Down. Cool, man. And I got chills, man, when I saw that Here Without You was the number one song in America. Didn't last very long, but it was interesting, that song goes to number one. Kind of poetic in many respects. But that's your top 10 list for today. If you have ideas for the top 10 list, reach out, let us know. Best way to do that is to hit up Roy Samanti, my friend, on X at Dogmatic67, DAWGMATIC 67. You can find our great list on Spotify on that same handle. And of course, I'm on all forms of social media at Scout Steve R. Next segment of the show brought to you by Campus Bookmart, a Starkvillian institution. We love Campus Bookmart. We have for a long time. They've always been there for us when we needed Mississippi State gifts. We need Mississippi State merchandise for ourselves. They continue to be a Starkvillian institution. So whether you need that M over S hoodie or perhaps that fashionable quarter zip, you can find it at Campus Bookmart and support a Starkville business. Next time you're in town, make that turn by the Trooper Station. Just mosey on around. Right before you get to campus, there is the wonderful Campus Bookmart there on the left-hand side. Miss Kathy Brown does an amazing job outfitting that store with the latest in Mississippi State merch. Valentine's Day is coming up. Maybe you can swing in there and buy some maroon and white for the person you love. I did. Maybe you can as well. Be sure and check it out. You'll be glad you did. Now, if you can't make it to town, or perhaps game day is a difficult shopping day for you, visit them on the World Wide Web, courtesy of Al Gore's Internet at campusbookmart.net. And by being a loyal Boneyard listener, we'll give you a phrase that pays. That is BSR, which gets you free shipping on all orders over $75. Any order less than 75 bones, absolutely incomplete. And remember, in just over 2 months, your Mississippi State graduate's going to be walking through commencement. What greater gift could you have than that great diploma frame? Be sure and check that out. Be thinking ahead. Campus Bookmart. All right, tonight, Mississippi State men's basketball back in action against Tennessee. The Volunteers maybe haven't been what many people expected. They're still a good team. But 16-7 overall. They are 12-1 at home, but 2-4 in true road games. Overall, away from Thompson Bowling, they are 4-6 this year. And that's all interesting, right? So it feels like your best chance to beat them is to get them on the road. That's kind of how things work. They're 6-4 in the SEC. Let's go back and kind of look how they got here. Got off to a good start. Knocked off Mercer, Northern Kentucky, North Florida, Rice, Tennessee State. And then they get into the Players Era Men's Championship event. They take both games there. They get Rutgers 85-60 and this slip by Houston 76-73. At the time, we thought, man, this Tennessee team is for real. Then they head out to Vegas and lose to Kansas by 5. No shame in that. But then the trip to Syracuse for the ACC-SEC Challenge ends up being a 2-point loss as well. And then the losing streak reaches 3 games as they lose to Illinois in Nashville at Bridgestone Arena by 13. So a little, kind of non-conference challenges there after some big wins early. They bounce back to knock off Louisville, who was ranked 11th at the time. That game never really in doubt as Tennessee wins it by 21. Then there's Gardner-Webb and South Carolina State. Then you get into SEC play. They go to Fayetteville, Arkansas. At the time, the Razorbacks were ranked 18th in the country. They lose that game by 11 to the Hogs. They get Texas at their place, get them by 14. They go to Florida, lose down there 91-67. They get A&M by 5 there in Knoxville, and then lose by a pair to Kentucky in their home arena. They travel to Alabama and win that game 79-73. Of course, that was one of those Bediako games. And so Tennessee kind of proven that even if you try to skirt the rules, Nate, you can still lose. They go to Georgia, win that game by 1. Bit of a barn burner game there. And then knock off Auburn 77-69. The Stephen Pearl era not going exceptionally well. They get Ole Miss in Knoxville by 18, 84-66. They go to Kentucky, lose by 3, which brings you where we are now. This will play the Bulldogs. Now, this Tennessee team defensively, one of the better teams in the conference and the country. They like to kind of muddy it up a little bit. So we kind of like that game too. So we'll kind of see how things go. We've got to make some shots, though. We got to make some shots. Looking inside the numbers here with Tennessee from a team standpoint, averaging about 82 points a game, giving up about 70. So outscoring their opponents by about a dozen. And some of that is because the non-conference games got a little bit skewed. They've had a lot of games that have been very, very competitive. Of course, they've had a few games in SEC play, as you've heard, that have been blowouts, relatively speaking. They shoot about 47% a game, giving up about 40%. And teams have been able to get shots skyward, too. Not a ton of turnovers, but some. Tennessee shooting about 35% from beyond the arc, giving up about 30%. They make about 7 threes a game, give up about 8. Free throw percentage about 69%. That's nice. Same thing for their opponents. Twice as nice. Rebounding has been a strength. They've out-rebounded opponents by about 13 per. Handed out 401 assists this year, about 17.5 a game. So certainly a team basketball concept, giving up just right at 11. 296 turnovers to 266. So they're turning it over about 13 times and forcing turnovers about a dozen times. So maybe not great in that respect. Assist to turnover ratio is 1.4. They do have 177 steals. They've given up 183. So teams have been able to get out in transition a little bit, make some plays. They've had 93 shots blocked, and they've blocked just 78. So not a huge part of the Tennessee experience. But look at some player numbers here. Jacoby Gillespie, the straw that stirs the drink, and he does a lot of it from beyond the arc. He has attempted 187 three-point baskets this year. He's made 67. So he's missed 120. But doing a good job, for sure. Started all 23 games this year, averaging 18.5 points per game. Has been good on the glass, too. Pulling down a couple boards a game. Nate Ahmed, second on the team this year, 17.6%. Those are the only 2 double-digit scorers. But there is some depth within this team. They are a team that maybe plays a little bit more of a liberal rotation. J.P. Estrella, right under double figures at 9.2, and then Jalen Carey with just over 8 points a game. And from there, it's kind of a considerable drop-off. But it's kind of been a 2-man show with a fairly strong supporting cast. But again, this is a team that has not maybe performed up to expectations. But we're going to have to play good defense. And you start thinking about, Gillespie and Amen. We have had difficulty kind of shutting down teams' stars. They find a way to get looks that are advantageous to them, and we've really struggled in that aspect. Tip-off tonight is at 8 p.m., so be a late tip, obviously. I know that's going to hurt our crowd. It is. Number one, we're kind of apathetic about basketball, baseball starting this weekend. Some people are like, hey, I'm not going to make 2 trips to Starkville this week. So, we'll see how things kind of play out. But, we're going to have to play a good game to win this game, and it's going to have to start on the defensive end of the court. We've got to do a good job of, limiting their looks. The game can be seen on ESPN2 or streamed through the ESPN app. If you're looking for the Mississippi State radio call, you can find it on the Varsity app. That's what I use when I travel, trying to listen to other games. But that'll be the last time that we see a team of this magnitude in Humphrey Coliseum this year. And it's so crazy. You start working back through this thing and you start wondering. I guess Arkansas is one of those teams too. You look at and you feel like they're kind of comparable to Tennessee. And of course, Arkansas got us, just a different schematic. But after this, we get Tennessee. This Saturday, we'll travel to Ole Miss, and while it will be baseball season, Jacob Bain will go cover the game for us. So we'll have full coverage of both baseball and men's basketball this weekend. Then Auburn comes to Humphrey Coliseum. We go to South Carolina, then to Alabama. Missouri comes in. We go to Florida, and then Georgia comes in. So, running out of opportunities. And we have reached the point where many of our fans are just kind of like, they watch it passively. It's no longer become like must-watch TV, right? We certainly expected to be playing meaningful basketball in February. We are not. In any chance that we have to do anything, we're going to have to just really string it together here late. And, there's no free agents you can go out and sign. You can't promote somebody from the minor leagues or call somebody up from the G League. I mean, that's no longer permissible, right? But like all of you, this has been a season that I have endured more so than enjoyed, and I had higher hopes for this team. I really thought we would be an NCAA tournament team again. And again, there's only so much you learn until you get the team on the court. On the women's side of things, and I'll be in attendance, kind of assisting with our coverage, as Georgia will roll into Humphrey Coliseum on Thursday. That'll be a 6:30 tip. Of course, your Bulldogs are 16-8, but we dropped 2 in a row, just 3-7 in the conference. But the chances of us finishing 500 in the league are pretty slim at this point. We'd have to have a major upset of somebody. But, we need to get this game against Georgia. There's really no ifs, ands, or buts about it. And we got to go to Arkansas, which has really struggled this year. That should be a winnable game. And then you got Florida at home. So, realistically, you could put together a 3-game winning streak here. The Bulldogs right now still projected to make the NCAA tournament, but we're 4 games under 500 within the league. In the event you could string together a 3-game winning streak before that trip to Texas, all of a sudden you start feeling a little bit better about things. And if you could pick off A&M, you feel like you're probably going to make the tournament. We got to win some games. There's no question about that aspect of it. Nobody's just going to give it to us based on a beauty contest. You got to go win games. Every bit of this is based on merit. Meritocracy is kind of how things work in sports. If you don't want that, if you don't want to get things that you've earned, there are other avenues that you can pursue in the world. But in the world of sports, we have a scoreboard to determine who scores the most points and who doesn't, and a winner is declared based on the cumulative effort of both squads. Georgia is 19-5 overall. They're 10-3 at their place, 5-5 in the league, and 5-2 in true road games. Couple that with neutral side games, they are 9-2 away from Stegeman Coliseum there in Athens. Let's kind of take a look and see how they got where they are. They opened up, like a lot of people do, it's a very weak non-conference. And honestly, this is one of the weaker non-conference schedules I think that we have seen in the league this year. A couple of Power 4 teams on there, but they open up, they blow out Alabama State, and then they get Furman, USC Upstate, South Carolina State, Jacksonville State, North Florida, Georgia Tech, and they get that one by 28. They get Kansas by 6 down in Fort Myers, Florida. Then they pick off Butler. They get Florida State in Tallahassee by 20. Then it's North Carolina A&T, another blowout. They go to the For the Culture Holiday Classic, and they knock off VCU and Coppin State. Charleston Southern, of course, at the next and final non-conference victim, loses 97-52. They get into conference play, and of course things get a little more difficult. They go to Oxford and they lose by 17 to the Rebels. They do get Texas A&M there in Athens, 64-56. Get blown out by LSU in Athens, 80-59. Kind of played a defensive game against South Carolina. Held South Carolina to 65 points. The problem was Georgia could only pitch in 43. So even when you hold South Carolina well beneath their average, they still found a way to win by 22 points. Georgia gets a little bit of revenge over Ole Miss with an 82-59 win in Athens. Probably a little bit of a surprise there. They go to Fayetteville and win, which everybody has, by 10. They go to Lexington. They beat Kentucky in a very tightly contested game. Ends up being 72-67. They host Alabama, who has been a better team than I think maybe most people have expected. Alabama gets that one 68-53 in Athens. Tennessee rolls into Athens and wins it by 5 against Georgia. Tennessee then goes to Missouri and wins 85-66, which brings them here. So that'll be, again, a 6:30 tip. And you watch on the SEC Network. Plus, of course, it means you can stream it through your ESPN app. We'll look at some team numbers here, too, just to kind of get you prepared. A little bit of a scouting report, I guess we could say. There have been some times that we've had some very difficult games against Georgia. This could be one of them. Could be. We're going to have to play well, and we need the home crowd to be there. Let's see here. So, Danny Carnegie, 18.5 points per game. And this has been a starting group that has been fairly consistent. It's usually been Carnegie, Woolfolk, Turner, and Riley Therakoff. But all 4 of them are scoring in double figures. Carnegie leads the way with 18.5 points, Woolfolk with 12.3, Trinity Turner with 11.5, and then Riley Therakoff with 11.3. From there is a noticeable drop-off. Now, Vera Ogunwani has been a part-time starter for them, but has really been more of a facilitator and a defensive player. But looking at some team numbers for them, averaging about 75 points a game, giving up just 59. So defensively, they have had it's worked out well for them. But again, that non-conference record was so poor. Those are things you kind of look at. When you get into SEC play, it's a little bit different. The margins are a little bit different. Georgia actually getting outscored in conference play. Georgia 67 points a game, giving up almost 69 points a game. So again, the non-conference schedule gives you a chance to build some confidence, but much of it is false confidence. Overall, we'll stick with the shooting numbers, kind of based on what they've done in all 24 games. Shooting about 44%, giving up just 37%. 3-point baskets, about 7 per, and giving up just over 6. They shoot 33%, almost 34%, give up about 30% from beyond the arc. We're going to have to make some 3-point baskets to win this game. And again, really good at the free throw line. I say really good at the free throw line, 71%. Rebounding has not necessarily been a strength, but it hasn't really been a deficit. They're out rebounding teams by about 4 per, pulling down about 39, giving up about 35. They will share the basketball, about 15 assists per game, giving up about 11. They also will turn it over a little bit too, about 14 turnovers per game. They force about 18, so difference of about 4 in their favor. But points off turnovers has been a strength for them, right at 18 points per game. They will get their hands on the basketball, about 9 steals per game. They haven't stolen about 6. They block about 3 shots a game and give up about 3 blocks a game. But again, it's so interesting too. And again, one of the leaner non-conference schedules, and like you get into conference play, and Georgia's shooting less than 40% from the field, shooting about 27% from beyond the arc. That number comes down to about 6. Like, it's just so interesting to look and see the disparity between conference and non-conference play. They've been out rebounded in conference play. Just about every metrics when it comes to the game of basketball, other than steals, has favored the opponent. They got 68 steals in conference play. They've allowed 57. But blocks they've been almost doubled up on. And so, again, this is a team that I think the overall record maybe props them up a little bit from an appearance standpoint. You see 19-5, and you're like, wow, they went through the non-conference schedule 19-0. And then when you kind of dig deeper into it, you kind of recognize there were some reno wins on there in a big way. And you get into conference play, and things just haven't been, what you'd expect them to be. But, again, we're going to have to play well. But is this a game that we can win? Yes, and we must if we want to remain in the tournament. You think, man, we're safely in there as a 9. No, that's typically one of the last teams that makes it in from a Power 4 conference, because the bottom half of the bracket is typically reserved for automatic qualifiers from non-Power 4 conferences. And so not to say we couldn't get in at a lower seed, but the chances of that happening are pretty slim. We got to win some basketball games. Everything is predicated on winning. Right, and that's one of the things I think in some respects, and some people won't like it when I say this, but that's okay. We as a fan base, I think it focused too much on the minutia of college athletics. Right, and part of that is being in attendance. We need to be in attendance at games. It's one thing to love from afar, but if you can be a season ticket holder and you can be there when Mississippi State needs you, needs your voice, needs you in full throat and in full spirit, we need to be there. But we have seen kind of a transition. A lot of people rather just kind of stay home and complain online. And that doesn't profit us anything. It doesn't mean you love Mississippi State any less. I'm not going to sit here and suggest that. I don't know your heart, but I know this. I know that we need you at these sporting events, home and away when you can get there. It's a big part of it. But nothing matters more than winning. Period. Nothing. The color uniforms that we wear mean nothing. But we want to make it every single time that we take the court in a black uniform, there's got to be a thread. There's got to be a litany of social media posts about, hey, we're maroon and white. Guys, it doesn't matter what we're wearing when we lose. It makes no difference. And you're like, well, hey, why don't we have Pepsi products? What does it matter? Right? We got to focus on winning. And that's one of the more foundational standards in college athletics and really athletics at every level is you got to win. And it's incredible how much the other stuff doesn't matter when you're winning. Like when you're winning ball games, nobody tends to care what you're wearing. When you're winning ball games, the line at the concession stand doesn't seem to be nearly as inconvenient, right? Everything is magnified when you're losing. And you're like, well, we don't understand you. We need to do this. And a lot of it is just a desperate attempt to find a way to be right about something. And a part of that is because we're just sick of losing. We are sick of losing. Collectively. That's the one thing we can all agree upon. We're facing a scenario right now. Yes, we made a bowl game. We did. But, guys, we lost 8 games in football. We went 5-8. Yes, we improved the win total. Yes, we had a chance to play in a bowl game. Yes, we made some progress. But the record was 5-8. Yes, we've been at 3 consecutive NCAA men's tournaments. Not going to happen this year unless we win the SEC tournament. Right? Yes, we've been in the postseason every year, women's basketball with Sam Purcell. We went to the tournament last year, made a little bit of racket. And now we're kind of hanging on by a thread, and then baseball's coming this weekend. And everybody's counting on baseball to kind of be our savior, so we have something to celebrate when it comes to Mississippi State fandom. And so, yeah, it's been a difficult couple of years. But even if we wore your favorite uniforms or your favorite logo and all that kind of stuff and we didn't win, it wouldn't mean anything. Not saying those things aren't important, but nothing is more important than winning. Winning also involves revenue. Winning involves player procurement. That's a huge part of this. And every time we go out and spend money on other stuff, not saying we shouldn't, because we have to keep pace. We need to improve the game day experience every chance we get. But that's something that works against player procurement, unless we get a gift out there. And so we got to focus on winning. That's what matters most. Everything else is just details. All right, final segment of the show brought to you by the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. The best place to stay in the Golden Triangle, bar none, when you're bringing a large group to town, and you certainly should. You've seen it on documentaries and TV shows and movies and thought, man, wouldn't it be great to get everybody under one roof? I can tell you from experience, man, we had a great time at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. You need to experience that for yourself. You got people you love. You got people you don't spend enough time with. Make the plan. We always talk about buy the ticket, take the ride, right? Get things going in your life. It's not going to last forever. Life is short, death is certain. Make as many meaningful memories with the people you love as humanly possible. And I think the best way to do that is to get everybody together and just have those in-between moments when you can just kind of sit around and get caught up and just invest some time and show people you love them. Whether it's a ball game weekend, maybe some vacation time you need to spend, come stay at the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. It's open 365 days a year. It's the old renovated country club clubhouse out past the Highlands off 182, just 5 minutes away from the Mississippi State campus. So if it's a ball game weekend, you can do your tailgating right there. You get the benefit of a full-service kitchen, the wet bar, the back porch area, the fire pit area, which is so valuable this time of year. 6 bedrooms, 2 soon to be 3 baths. Plenty of parking. That's one of the amenities we can't emphasize enough. Everybody can park the car right on property. You don't have to worry about those kinds of things. Now, Google the Stark Vegas Clubhouse. When you do, their Facebook page will auto-populate for you. You can see all the pictures of all the amenities available to you and your guest. In addition to that, some booking options are going to pop up too. You can go Airbnb and VRBO if you want to. But if you want to save some money, and I'm sure you do, book through the Evolve website and use promo code BSR10. That's BSR10, the number 10, to save 10% off your stay. How wonderful is that? Just being a listener to this show, you get a discount, a promo code to stay at the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle. And again, maybe you got a work group, bring everybody in, you got some common areas you can work in, and then everybody's got their own bedroom they can retreat to and get a little rest in the evening. The Stark Vegas Clubhouse, the best place to stay in the Golden Triangle, bar none. Now, I am not a meteorologist, but I have a cell phone, right? And so some people believe that because they have a cell phone, they've become an amateur meteorologist. They have a huge following in the Mississippi State Facebook groups. Huge following. Huge. They're wrong most of the time. Doesn't stop them from posting. These same people were also experts during the COVID era too. I'm just a meager scribe. I just write about Mississippi State. I got long hair. I enjoy rock music, and I work in recovery a little bit. So I'm only an expert on a few things, but I have a cell phone, which makes me feel like an expert on a lot of things. The forecast for Saturday, based on the real meteorologist, is improving. There is not any rain expected on Friday. There is some light rain in the forecast for Saturday. Now, Sunday could be a dicey proposition. So you need to kind of be aware, if you're heading to Starkville this weekend, that there may be some changes to game times. And again, it looks like Friday, that 4 p.m. start will hold unless we decide to play 2 Friday and 1 Saturday. Don't know yet. I suspect we find out on Thursday. But again, the forecast for Saturday is improving. And I am confident we're going to get all 3 of these games in no matter when we have to play them. I'm just eager to play. And I want to get all 3 of these games in because I expect us to win all 3. As you guys know, I spoke to Coach Calinato yesterday. He had a lot of great things to say. He did tell us a couple of things about the pitching rotation. And if you read over at genespage.com, you know, right? I wrote that piece yesterday. I won't give you all the details from the article. That's the joy of subscribing. But so Friday, they're going to go with Martinez. We talked about that possibility on Monday. They're going to go with Hamilton on Saturday. Game 3, no matter when that's played, will be a TBD. Right-hander Christian Rasmussen, who pitched last year for them, didn't pitch much, but he pitched some. That is a possibility. And then they have a true freshman, left-handed pitcher, Nick Reese, may make his college debut this weekend. And a lot of it's just going to depend on some health situations and how the weekend goes, right? So that's what we're going to see. 2 righties, maybe 3 righties or a lefty as starters. And we're going to throw 2 lefties and a righty. And, of course, Ryan McPherson will have the bump on Friday. And he's a guy that we trust. He's a guy that we love. We know his ability, and we know that he is going to be a big-time pitcher. He was last year. It's some big moments for Mississippi State last year. So he's earned it. I really thought Valenkas would get the Friday start and McPherson be on Saturday. But I think it's interesting. I'm curious to see what O'Connor's line of thought was. Was he left up to Justin Parker? How much emphasis did O'Connor place on Justin Parker's work with these guys? How much autonomy is he giving him, right? So I fully expect to win the weekend, and we'll talk more about it on Friday. And by that time, we'll have a better idea of kind of how things look with the weather and with the schedule. So I hope that you will turn out and join us. I truly do. There's a lot that's got to take place here in the next few days. Mississippi State's going to be a busy place the remainder of this week. So we want you to be a part of that. I've had a few people that have hit me up, of course, about the Brett Arnold stuff, and I have really enjoyed interacting with all of you, as this is a shared loss for all of us. And again, the thing that I go back to is people ask me, it's like, why is this, why do you take this so difficultly? Why is it so hard? And I tell you, part of it is because Brad Arnold lived the same life that you and I did for the most part. Those of us that grew up in Mississippi, he did. And, big dreams are born in small rooms. And I think a guy from Escatawpa, Mississippi could have multi-platinum albums and tour the world and play with some of the biggest names in rock music and then come out the other end of it and then it not change him as a person. And he still, those same values that he was raised with there in South Mississippi persisted. I think that is an important thing. It says a lot about him, but it also says a lot about Mississippi, right? Is that a lot of the lessons we learn, good or bad, stay with us. And it's up to us to kind of evolve. But I think when you're raised to do things in the right way, that's Bible too, that you don't depart from it. And if you do, it's kind of a vacation. More times than not, you return to it because deep down you know those things are right. And there is a real grit in Mississippi, folks, that make me really proud. I wanted to share a little bit something with you too. We talk about recovery on this stuff on the show, but it's not necessarily, a lot of these lessons are not limited to people in recovery. It can help all of us. And in today's daily reading, and we have those in recovery. We have the Just for Today book. We have daily reflections. There's the 24 hours a day book. There's a lot of things. But one of the things that I wanted to share with you today that is from recovery, but it applies to all of us, comes from one of the daily readings. If we're going to stay sober, we've got to learn to want something else more than we want to drink. When we first came in AA, we couldn't imagine wanting anything else so much or more than drinking. So we had to stop drinking on faith, and on faith that someday we really would want something else more than drinking. End. So I think that the lesson and the philosophy behind every bit of that can be applied to any negative element in our lives. For me, there were times in my life I wanted to give up, truly, because I had made such a mess, right? It was such a terrible, I couldn't get a job. You had to take a job working at a rough mill, at a furniture company there in Columbia, Mississippi called Orleans Furniture, and they would basically hire anybody, And there I was with a felony conviction and a bad name, a tough time getting a date, But one of the most things that you understand is when you get in that moment, you have a decision to make. You can buy into the negativity and eventually let it take you down a negative path. And maybe that leads to relapse or depression or basically just kind of turning from what you know is right in life because you're angry and bitter and resentful. And I'm a firm believer. I heard this one day in a meeting, and I've shared it many times. Resentment is just like peeing down your own leg. You're the only person that feels it. And that's the honest to goodness truth about that aspect of it. But no matter what we're dealing with, no matter what our cross to bear per se is, whether it be alcoholism, addiction, pornography or whatever it is, we have to find something that matters more to us to escape the clutches of that. And so there are people right now within the sound of my voice that are involved with inappropriate relationships. It's true, and maybe you don't want to admit that. And maybe it's because of the fact that you've invested your emotional energy in someone you shouldn't have. It is impossible to truly love two people with all your heart. It's impossible. I'm not saying you can't be attracted to two people. I'm not saying you can't have feelings for two people. But at some point, you make a decision of where you invest your emotional and romantic energy. And so I go back to this lesson in today's daily reading. We have to focus on what matters most. I'm not going to sit here and defend any of my negative behaviors. I have known what to do at every crossroads in my life. I just didn't always do it. And I paid the price for it. I wrote about this in When the Bottom Falls. It's kind of like being that cow in the pasture, right? That barbed wire fence there is to protect you. It's not to harm you. It's there to protect you. Now, if you go brush up against it, it's going to hurt. And thank God for that. I kind of equate that to consequences when it comes to life. When you have painful consequences, it is like that barbed wire rubbing against that cow's skin. Now, if the cow is stubborn enough, he can take the fence down, or she can take the fence down. Because with their full strength and their mass, they can just knock that barbed wire fence over, and they can wander out in the road and get run over if they really want to. And that's kind of where we are. We still have free will in life, at least for now. And so I share that with you because I think it's important that we take some time to figure out what really matters in life. And for me, it's my family and my children and my grandchildren and being the best father and husband I can possibly be. And I have not always batted 1,000 in either of those pursuits. But I would encourage you, right, to kind of get outside of yourself a little bit. Because what happens is when I'm involved in something negative, when I am involved in something harmful, I tend to only want to listen to people that validate my opinion. And one of the things that the Daily Reflections and the 24 Hours books and One Day at a Time, what all that stuff does for me is it brings me an objective third-party lesson that doesn't know what I'm going through or what I'm involved in, and it gives me some positive affirmations about what life should really be about. And a lot of people read the Bible every day. Some people read the Quran. You read whatever you want, right? But I think we all need a bit of a moral compass. You know, when I was a weed-smoking fornicator, I spent my time with more weed-smoking fornicators. You know, when I went to church every Sunday and Sunday night and sang in the choir, then all of a sudden, you got the Jesus fish on the back of the car. You're meeting your friends for lunch after church, right? And so you become evenly yoked. There's just something about the human condition. So I would never smoke weed around my church friends. And I would never have had my weed friends go to church, right? It's incredible how chameleon we can be. And one of the things that I would encourage you is if you know that you were involved in something untoward, if you were involved in something, and trust me, I have been at various points of my life. I'm not preaching to you. I am speaking to you from the voice of experience. What happens is when you are involved in something you shouldn't be, in behaviors that are beneath you, at least for me, I always found a way to justify it. Always found a way to feel like that I was entitled to this. Even though deep down I knew it was wrong. But I would have this self-talk, and then I would go again, try to find people that would amplify that. Yeah, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right, you're right. Dude, you deserve this, right? Don't you deserve to be happy? And then ultimately knowing that these pursuits would not ultimately make me happy. They may give me a measure of happiness in the moment, but ultimately they are not good for me. They're not good for my family. They're not good for the business. They're not good for the brand. And so I share that with you today. And I don't know why I felt so led to share that today. I read my meditation this morning and I said, you know what, I'm gonna work this into the show today. Because I guarantee you there are people out there just like me that have been similarly situated at times in their lives in things that they shouldn't be involved in. And so I'm going to encourage you. It ends when you're ready. It's all up to you, right? You're not a passenger. You're the pilot. So figure it out. Figure it out and surround yourself with people that are going to have messaging that mirrors more of your values. As mentioned before, the Valentine's Day specials, time is running out. 2 floats for $99. What a great value. Dial 662-268-7601. Dana, get you going. Matter of fact, I'm going to finish up here and I'm going to head up there to help her because we're very, very busy today. Come join us over at genespage.com. We'd love to have you as part of our merry band of misfits. And go to dutynoblebook.com. You get signed copies of all my sports titles, plus the personal memoir, When the Bottom Falls. And writing process for the new book is already underway. And that won't take very long, but we hope to have it out for you sooner rather than later. We look forward to doing that. Thank you guys so much for your support of the Boneyard all these many years. We look forward to being back with you on Friday. But until next time, let's all live our lives in a way we make more friends than enemies, and people can see a difference in the way we live.